Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of September 29th to October the 5th. That is right. That is right. That is right. It is the last few days of September. What does that mean for you? It is your last few days to book a reading with me at the discounted rate. When I wake up on October 1st, I'm going to get onto the website and I'm going to put everything back to full price. So you have Monday and Tuesday. Well, Sunday, because I'll put this out on Sunday, of course, but you have until the end of Tuesday to get your sessions booked at the discounted rate. A 1 hour session with me right now is $35. It's normally $50. A 90-minute session with me is $50 and it is normally $70. This is the last full monthly special that I will run for September. So if you're going to book with me, now is the time to do it. So there's that. So it's really interesting because I wrote my notes out for this episode yesterday. And normally, whenever I'm looking at the screen and writing out the transits and everything, because I'm so old school and I like my notebooks. One day in the future, somebody's going to look at my notebooks and be like, how did she actually do these things? Because half the time my notebook is blank. But sometimes there's actually notes in there. So it's kind of funny. But there is so much this week that has a buildup. There's a buildup in the vibration. And that's because every day this week is building towards a full moon. But that full moon will not perfect until Monday, until the 6th. So there's going to be an amp up each day in the activity level. But there's also these little things that started to pop out at me as I was doing the notes that would not normally pop out. And that's the series of what's called quincunxes that's going to be happening as the week progresses. Most specifically, they're exact through Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And the majority of them, they're very lunar. So it's going to be very mild energy, just some things of not seeing eye to eye, not understanding certain things, not agreeing with certain things, not wanting to be responsible for certain things. But then there's a bigger one. And it is in that buildup towards the full moon. And there's something about it that screams an upset of some sort. And specifically, when I was writing around it, I started hearing the term bad news bears. Bad news bears. And I think of the concept of that OG movie. I mean, I do mean the OG. I never watched the remake, didn't give it the time of day. I'm thinking of the old school stuff. Things coming out of nowhere. People coming out of nowhere. And I don't mean that in the sense of like the blast from the past situation. It's like people that have been lurking, situations that have been lurking, things that have been in the buildup of the new that have not fully found a way to break the surface yet. I feel like there's some things that are going to be breaking the surface in the mundane sense, human sense, that can happen this week, closer, especially as we get closer to the weekend. For more people, I feel like it's going to be next week. There's this burst of energy. There's this thing that comes out of nowhere that for some people, it's going to be like you are the bad news bears. Like nobody gives you the time of day. Nobody would think that you could ever put something together. Nobody would have ever saw you coming. And then boom, you're the one pushing something out there. You're the upset. For other people, it's because we haven't paid attention to all the details. We haven't given certain people the time of day. We haven't thought of certain things through. We completely dismiss something. And there has this way of coming back around and knocking you off your seat. Now, that can be in the physical sense, that can be in the energetic sense. And that too can be an upset. There's a lot of activity this week, every single day, but there's no groundbreaking, this is going to be super tense. No, it's nothing like that. It's very much a buildup of things that have been desired that we have not acted upon. Things that we've been stewing on for a while, but we haven't brought to the surface. We haven't challenged somebody. And once certain things come to light, come to the surface, break apart, there is going to be some breaking too. But I feel like more breaking goes into next week than this week. It's like the underlying thing of like, you haven't been treating your employee well, and something clicks for them this week. And then there comes an action or a reaction, like right at the start of next week, of them severing ties, going in a different direction, leaning into another side. There's a very, at least to me, clear wave up, shift. But for so many people, it's not what we see coming. And I'll be honest, I don't see all of it coming either. I don't fully know what it is. Still kind of excited for it because I like change. I am a weirdo. Some of y'all don't like change. We got to drag you kicking and screaming. Fixed signs, you know who you are. But there is this vibration of a little bit of buildup every single day this week. But I also feel like in the buildup, there is indifference. There's people not seeing eye to eye. There's people that are going to do those last minute things of you're not good enough. You're not capable. I don't know why. I don't know how. There is things that speak to a level of indifference as this week builds up. And there, whenever we get to parts of the end of the week, especially the weekend, we can have this internalized shift in vibration, this awareness of wanting to cut someone off or having that new unseen awareness that again creates or leads into or is a part of the upset that the bad news bears brings. Remember at the end, we cheered for the bears. We were happy for the bears, even if other people didn't like it. Remember that part. Oh, now there is a health effect that can come through by the end of the week because when we go into the weekend, remember Venus and Mercury are in mutual reception. Everything that impacts Mercury impacts Venus. Everything that impacts Venus impacts Mercury. Over the weekend, Mercury will hit an opposition to Chiron. That by itself doesn't feel very heavy. It feels like we're really trying to think of ways to create a solution, overcome an issue, work on something, fix something. But I feel like for some people, one of the fixes is going to be to separate and leave something behind. That does not have to be very dramatic in any way. It can be a very logical conversation. But I feel like for other people, because simultaneous to Mercury going through the opposition to Chiron, Venus is starting a buildup to the South Node. And over the weekend, there will be a conjunction to Venus in the South Node. Now, the South Node is the body of the dragon. Venus rules things that bring us pleasure. Venus rules food. But the other thing Venus rules is things on your body tied to your mouth, your throat, your esophagus, going all the way down to your stomach organ. Venus has co-rulership, more dominant rulership of the lungs, of the kidneys, and she also rules female sexual organs. Not going to quite go in that category, but I am thinking that there will be some people that can have an effect on the body, especially if you have placements in that 18-degree range of any mutable sign, Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, or Pisces. There can be something that kind of activates that can impact the body, but that did not seem as strong as the other things that I was working on, but I'm not going to ignore it either. So if we're feeling an issue with our lungs or something along these lines, take it easy. Take it easy. That's the best way I can describe that. Okay. I know that was kind of a weird click over, but I felt the need to very much, bring that part up. So let's get into the week. Let's get into Monday. Let's get into the 29th. All right. So here we go. September 29th, we are right there after midnight at that 12:30 a.m. standpoint, because what's going to be happening between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. is this moon is going to hit this square to Saturn. And I always think it's interesting whenever with this Saturn in Pisces vibration, When the moon hits the square to Saturn, it's like there's something about the responsibility, what we need to do, where we need to be productive that comes through right before the moon completely submerges into Saturn's signs for a couple of days. So, in the overnight hours of Sunday into Monday, it is the most exact right after midnight, but it can still have the human effect of being a part of Sunday evening. Of like, there is awareness of a responsibility, there's questioning of the elders, there's something that we know we need to focus on. And there can be just that internalized click. Some people are dealing with something with their elders and a questioning of them or talking to them. It doesn't have to be a heavy thing. But the moon hitting that square to Saturn kind of for a lot of people will put an awareness of where we need to be responsible for something once the moon goes into Saturn signs. And that's going to happen as we continue overnight. Speaking of overnight, let's go ahead and bump that down. We're going to get to roughly 5:30 at 4:55 a.m. Central Standard Time. The moon is going to go into Capricorn. Now, not everybody likes moon in Capricorn. I personally do because I feel like it gives people the ability to be a little bit more productive and not put so much weight into emotions. But I feel like once the moon goes into Capricorn, there's again going to be some stuff from the past. There's going to be stuff with our elders, stuff with a boss, prior decisions, finding its way back to the surface for the next round, the next part of a weight, given the condition of Saturn now having been retrograded back into Pisces for just about a month. That started on September 1st. We're at September 29th and 30th. We've had a couple weeks of this. And whatever unresolved, unfinished business that Saturn and Pisces represents, I feel like by the time we get to the 29th, we know what it is. Whether it's big or small, we have an idea of like where we need to do one more shift, one more layer of healing, one more focus. And to do that, we also have to be productive. And as soon as the moon goes into Capricorn, we need to be productive about where responsibility has shifted, where the past is coming back around, where we need to get some things done that got missed, weren't done right before, and need to be set straight now. Now, for some people, you're just going to become aware of some of the old stuff, and you're not going to be working on it yet because you don't know how much old stuff is there. And that's fair and that's fine. But there is going to be this mix of old coming to the surface now that we have the moon in Saturn sign while Saturn is back in Pisces. So a lot of the productivity, a lot of that responsibility, it's not new in a lot of ways. Be a blending of new and old. It's because you're trying to do more with the new that the old keeps coming back around going, hey, I wasn't done right. This paperwork wasn't filed right. This didn't get done right. This got overlooked. This was a bad decision 6 months ago. It's time to revise it. How quick you do revisions will be different for everybody. But there is this blend of the old stuff coming back around the more and more we try to do something new. And once the moon goes into Capricorn, which this is how we start the week, there's a lot of vibration towards understanding old and new simultaneously. All right, let's keep it going. Oh, the moon is now in Capricorn. As soon as the moon goes into Capricorn, it is going to start a square to Neptune. So you can see this right here. This is going to be felt the most exact between 5 and 7 a.m. I got it at 6:30. Here's the moon, 0 degrees, 47 minutes. Here's Neptune, 0 degrees, 35. So we're just past the exact. It was closer to 6 a.m. that it was the most exact. There can be a bit of nostalgia. There can also be a bit of confusion as to like, wait, I thought this was handled. How was this not handled? How is this coming back up right now? Where did this come from? And there can be some old stuff just as much as there can be new stuff. If we have some old stuff, there can be confusion around the old stuff. Like, what is this? For some of us, it's just nostalgia and it's just old stuff. I'm like, oh, I haven't thought about this in forever. I haven't talked about this in forever. I haven't tried to do this in forever. But the moon hitting that square to Neptune, it can bring confusion. It can bring a little bit of like disconnection as to like the who, what, when, where, and how. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the heaviest thing at 6 o'clock in the morning. Let's be fair about that. Okay. Now, if we go into Monday trying to get some things accomplished with us starting the day with that moon squaring Neptune, people are going to be distracted and people are not going to be very quick to get their motivation going. You need an extra energy drink. You need some extra coffee, but you also need to pace yourself with that energy drink, not down it all the way through and then just sit there buzzing and rattling. No, we don't need to do that. Just give yourself a little bit more grace to get the motor going as we go through Monday. Okay. Now, by the time we get into the afternoon, we're not as clouded, we're not as hazy, we're not as in that foggy sense as we had been. Between 2 and 4 p.m., I got this now at 2:30, Mars, 5 degrees, 3 minutes, is going to go through a sextile with the moon. You can see this here. The moon is at 4 degrees, 51 minutes. So we're just a few minutes, quite literally, before the exactness hits. This is not a heavy energy, but there can be something about actions that's been going on behind the scenes, below the surface, being given, being made, brought to awareness, being worked on, where we need to be productive about our actions, about our reactions. There is some kind of direction here, but not big, bold, you're going to do what I need to do kind of direction. It's more along the lines of like, hey, we need to get this accomplished. And this is the ABC steps to do it. Can you take care of these? What can you not take care of? It's like plan of action type of thing. Can it be disruptive? Absolutely. Can some people get their panties in a wad anytime the moon and Mars is involved? Absolutely. But that can be more personal projecting than anything else. This energy by itself is not super heavy, and given the rest of the sky right now, it's not super heavy, but it does give direction towards the buildup because, again, we are building towards a full moon in Aries. That's how we're going to start next week. But that's a full moon in Mars' sign. So anytime we have these lunations between Mars and the moon, as we continue to build through this week, can give direction or give focus to what we're dealing with in the full moon. Okay, I'm going to keep it going. As we get into the evening time, between 6 and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this at 7:30, I've got the sun here, 7 degrees, 7 minutes, going through a square to the moon. Here's the moon, 7 degrees, 23 minutes of Capricorn. So the sun is in the higher authority. The moon is building towards a full moon. This first quarter moon really kind of brings a different wave of energy. Again, this is a moon in Capricorn, so we're trying to be productive. We can still have something about the old that kind of clicks into this buildup of like, I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't even know this was an issue. The past is finding ways of coming back through little by little. Some of us are just going to be talking with something with our elders. We're going to be talking about certain responsibilities and how they need to continue to shift, how they need to continue to go into this new focus. But there's still going to be that lingering effect of some of the old stuff kind of finding its way through as this week continues. Okay, so we're going to keep this going. After the quarter moon, the sun square moon energy, there's nothing else going on to Monday. It's not that we're not getting a lot of things done or anything like that. I feel like a lot of people are going to be able to get a lot of things done. It's just knowing that there's energy building and decisions coming that we don't all have access to, that we don't all know about, but we're trying to be productive no matter what. Okay. We're now into the 30th. Now, in the early morning hours, roughly between 6:30 and 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this now at 7:30, Venus is going to trine the moon. So here's Venus, 13 degrees, 28 minutes. Here is the moon, 13 degrees, 33 minutes. This is Earth to Earth, productive to productive, a shift in plan, Venus and Virgo, to what needs to start, the moon in Capricorn. This is not a heavy energy. It is meant to give guidance and where we're being productive. But I need to add an extra layer to the fact that, again, Venus is in mutual reception to Mercury. All day on the 30th, we are building to a square that's going to happen between Jupiter and Mercury. It does not actually go exact until Wednesday, until the 1st. But there can be some kind of part of the direction of the change in plan, the change in information that is going to lead to some kind of decision. It's going to lead to some kind of green light. It's going to lead to some type of paperwork or filing. it's one element that can actually speak to a bigger element that is unfolding over the course of these 2 days, specifically Tuesday and Wednesday. And as we continue through the transits throughout the day, that will actually start to even make more sense. But I feel like Tuesday morning, we can become aware of a change of an agreement that needs to be filed, worked through, acted upon. Responsible parties need to be involved, need to make decisions, need to sign off on some things somewhere between Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, how heavy that is in that real life effect, who knows? But there is something about decision, communication, information, signatures, very much in the unfolding. So we're going to keep this going. And as this continues, we'll start to see why. Get this to roughly about 10:30 at night. Okay. So first things first, between 9:30 and 11:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Mercury is going to go through a square with the moon. But if you also pay attention, the moon is starting its opposition to Jupiter. So this feels like an activation to force two people into a conversation. It's like the third party setting a meeting for the next day, or it's the third party becoming aware of a meeting that will happen the next day. It feels like an activation that goes exact on Wednesday in regards to Jupiter being the doctor, the guru, the teacher, Mercury being that ruler of our logical brain. Mercury is wrapping up its trip through Libra this week. And then we also got to remember Venus is coming into that conjunction to the South Node. Since Venus and Mercury are mutual reception, these two signs are feeding off of each other. These two planets are feeding into each other. So making full awareness that there is more than one thing working through, being dealt with, coming to light, that's a part of the conversation, that's a part of the plan. So be aware if there has been a change in plan. For some people, the change in plan is going to be an upset. For some people, the news that's going to come through, the filing is going to come through, is going to have upset to it for a lot of people, or it's going to be something that is almost blindsiding, or it's going to be something that a lot of people do not see eye to eye on in the buildup of how this week is progressing. Now, again, Mercury is going to hit a square to the moon, giving an idea, conversation, opinion, direction, especially about fairness and balance, what needs to be completed, what needs to end. There's going to be some kind of lingering vibration of like, this is how we finish it. This is how we get over something. This is how we can let something go. And I'm only saying that because we're getting closer to, again, Mercury wrapping up its trip through Libra, but also Venus's conjunction to the South Node. Some people are going to feel very called internally to release something. That's a big way that this is going to come through this next week. Okay. Mercury square to the moon is the most exact until about 11:30 p.m. Right as we get to that 11:30 p.m., between 11:30 p.m. on the 30th and 1:30 on the 1st, that's whenever Jupiter is going to square the moon. So I've got this going through right here. You can kind of see what's going on whenever Jupiter going through it. I'm not a square. It's opposition to the moon. It's just about exact right here at this 12:30 standpoint. So here's the moon, here's Jupiter, 22 degrees, 29 minutes. And of course, the moon is at 22:24. There's going to be a lot of mental energy in the overnight hour of Tuesday going into Wednesday. There's going to be a lot of putting some paperwork together, a lot of planning, a lot of data gathering, a lot of just putting some things into motion. Now, the human effect as to how soon certain people will be ready, how soon people will get their direction, how soon people will be signing off on something, how soon people will be filing something, that human effect is going to be different for everybody because we're sure as crap not doing a bunch of it at midnight. Let's be fair. That's why I'm saying whenever the moon does this square to Mercury, opposition to Jupiter in that late part of Tuesday the 30th, in the early part of October 1st, it feels like it's activating something that will most likely human effect go down on the 1st. The other thing can be is like it can go down on the 30th, but it's like there's a witness, there's an audience with the moon kind of going through and being another part of that activation. There's more than one party involved. Okay, we're going to keep this going into the morning time. Between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this now at 10:30, the moon is going to go through a sextile to Saturn. And you can see this here. This is the moon in Saturn sign, making a sextile to Saturn. Saturn is retrograde, so they're actually moving towards one another. They have an understanding with one another. This is where I have been productive. This is what I need to fix something. This is how I need to heal something. I'm thinking of Saturn and Pisces by saying healing. This is how I've been feeling about something, Saturn and Pisces. I feel like it's the right time. I feel like this is right. I feel like this is wrong. It can be the wrong thing too. I feel like this is ready. And ready can be a big part of that vibration, considering after the moon goes through its sextile to Saturn, for a couple of hours, the moon is going to go void. Now, that moon is going to go void specifically until 2:52 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this now at 3:30, and the moon is now in Aquarius. The moon is still in a Saturn rule sign, but it is not in that productive Capricorn vibration. No. It is the moon in Aquarius. It is going to be pronouncing things that are going to last for a long term. And as soon as the moon goes into Aquarius, it's very, very busy. It's going to be doing a lot of little things all at once, which tells me that as we continue through the day on Wednesday, there's a lot of busy activity. There's a lot of moving parts to whatever is being agreed upon, to the direction, to the guidance, to the doctor's orders. There's extra layers to the plan, to the filing, to the documentation. And the reason I'm so heavy on all of those informational type of words is because of what's going on with Mercury while we're going through all of the lunar transits of the moon starting its trip through Aquarius. Whatever is getting signed off on is going to have an effect for the long term. It's not going to be something that's going to be like super quick and you never have to mess with it again. No, it's setting something into stone for a lot of people. It's setting something into motion for a lot of people. It's got a bigger effect than what we're immediately seeing. And the moon in Aquarius is going to feel very solemn in some ways, stubborn in others, educated in some ways. But there's something very fixed. And I'm not making a play on the fact that it's, moon in Aquarius. I'm just going off of like, it feels rigid once we get into some of the decisions, topics, conversations after this moon goes into Aquarius. So let's continue into the transits and we'll make more sense of that. Okay. So moon is in Aquarius, and what does it do? The first thing it does is it's going to start this sextile to Neptune. So you can see that right here. While the moon is going through a sextile to Neptune, please look at Jupiter and Mercury. Jupiter's at 22 degrees and 33 minutes. Mercury is at 22 degrees, 32 minutes. It's because of that Mercury Jupiter that I'm saying that we're putting something together. We're announcing something. We're filing something. We're putting things out there, giving direction of something that's going to last for a long time, and it's going to impact a lot of people. It's going to be interesting. Now, the Jupiter-Mercury square is going to be the most exact between 3:57 p.m. and 4:12 p.m. Now, remember, we were building to this Jupiter-Mercury square all day on the 30th. We have been in it all day. This is just when it's the most exact, and there's other things going on while it's going through the exactness. The moon is going to go through its sextile to Neptune. You can see that right there. As we continue, the moon is also going to go through this trine with Uranus. Unexpected communication, unexpected announcement. Some people, whatever starts to come through, they're not anticipating it. What I'm looking at is whenever the moon goes through its trine with Uranus, Uranus is in Mercury's sign while Mercury is going through that square with Jupiter. Unexpected news, unexpected communication, unexpected outbursts, unexpected plans, unexpected things finding its way to the surface. And for some people, that needs to come with a trigger warning. Why do I say that? I'm just going to bump this by 1 hour. We're still in the same part of the afternoon. But between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m., as the moon is separating from its sextile to Neptune, while it is still in that trine to Uranus, it is also going to start its conjunction to Pluto. some of the news, some of the information. It's going to bring fears to the surface. It's going to bring insecurities to the surface. But what's interesting about this Moon Pluto conjunction is this is their last conjunction before Pluto turns direct. So this triggered energy is like a final trigger in whatever the topic is. It's a final insecurity in whatever the topic is. Because for the rest of the month, Pluto will be stationing and turning direct midway through. So make yourself aware that whatever little topic of insecurity that is coming through, we're hitting a turning point in that vibration of knowing how we're going to set something straight, how we're going to turn something around, given the dynamic of knowing where we're at with Pluto right here. If we didn't have the Pluto element, I wouldn't necessarily say it quite that way, but I know Pluto is going to be turning direct soon, and that gives extra emphasis as to why the triggers are very, very necessary. Again, bad news bears kinds of week. Some people are going to have certain forms of communication, certain things that go out, certain news, certain filings, certain things that when other people hear about it, they're like, no, why? This isn't right. This isn't fair. This can't be real. And I would anticipate that type of thing because I feel like whatever is starting to come out around here is going to impact the masses in a multitude of ways. It's going to impact people in a multitude of ways. And even though there's going to be emotional responses, there's going to first be stubborn types of responses, more so than the emotional. Okay. October 1st is going to be interesting. But that Jupiter Mercury square, again, it's got news, it's got information, it's got a decision. Knowing that, again, all of this week, we're wrapping up Mercury in Libra. All of this week, Venus is coming closer to its conjunction to the South Node. Venus and Mercury are in mutual reception. There is going to be a decision that leads to relief or it leads to separations as this week progresses. This can be the decision that someone else doesn't see coming, but it triggers such a quick response that literally they make a decision within a week that they're going to leave. They're not going to stay. They're not going to put up with something. So be aware of that. Okay, let's keep this going. Oh, it's going to be a busy afternoon on the 1st. There will be lingering vibrations all through the evening time. Some people are going to struggle with that level of insecurity. Some people, like, all they're going to talk about is the decision that has been made, the direction that has been given between that Jupiter Mercury square, the actions and the long-term impacts of what direction has been given, what information has been given. All right, now we're going to get into the 2nd. We're going to get into Thursday. The moon is going to be in Aquarius all day. We are still in the Jupiter Mercury square. It is gone exact now, but the human effect is we're still going to be dealing with that Jupiter giving direction, giving guidance, giving filings, paperwork, whatever the Mercury aspect is for you. And again, we're still moving closer to something that's going to result in release. We have some direct transits that are going to be going through the day, so we're going to keep this going. Between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m., I got this at 3:30. We've got Mars going through a square with the moon. Now, this can have tension to it. There can be disruption. There can be accidents. There can be judgment. There can be fighting. It really kind of comes down to like where we're sitting in some of the mess. Sometimes it's projection. Like, you're perfectly fine, but somebody else is angry and they're projecting their anger and be like, oh, are you done yet? I had a lot of that lately. And it's one of those things that I just don't respond until I know that the energy is calmed down enough, like, because there's nothing that you can say to make something better. But Mars also being back in Scorpio, there is this energy towards hidden desires also being impressed, also being spoken through, also finding their way to the surface. I've been working on this for a while. I've got this plan going on. I've had this itch to do something, but I haven't been able to do it yet. And Mars, now having had a couple of days of being back in its home sign, there's some of that old vibration in a whole other way that can find its way to the surface, but we're not immediately acting upon it. And again, this Mars moon stuff, it can give glimpses, glimmers of what we're going to deal with in the Aries full moon that's going to take place on the 6th. So if you wake up, early Thursday morning and you have this desire, this itch, like this motivation, clue into that. If you're feeling the disruptive energy, clue into that too. This has got something that can speak through the layers of what we'll be dealing with in the full moon. All right, we're going to keep it going. Between 7:30 and 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this now at 8:30, the sun is going to go through a trine with the moon. Air to air, ideas to ideas. There's something here about reflection of confidence, of how we can move something forward, how we can push something forward, different types of intellectual understanding, different types of significance towards something starting that will have a long-term effect, even if we can't immediately recognize it for the long-term effect. There can be certain plans being discussed with the sun hitting the trine to the moon. There can be certain information that's kind of coming across. If anything, it can lead from like part of what was going on yesterday, because we still have this Mercury Jupiter square going on. Mercury is now about a degree away in that separation. So this still can be bleed over from the prior energy, but it feels like more and more instigative long-term awareness. There's a lot of spoken, busy, loud energy kind of rolling through here. All right, I'm going to keep this going. Now, as the day progresses, we're going to have a lunar quincunx. And I want to just go ahead and bring it up because I started talking about this in the beginning of the episode. And it tells me, given that there's nothing else directly going on through the evening time, that there's going to be a lot of indifference. There's going to be a lot of like conversations about what we don't agree with, what we don't see eye to eye with. I don't like the look at that. I don't like the taste of that. I don't like what I don't like. And there's so much restlessness in the buildup towards the full moon. And that's kind of got a stubborn energy. Like there's going to be some times that no matter how you season the food, your kid's not going to eat it. Your spouse isn't going to like it. Sometimes things are a little too spicy. Like there's something here in this vibration that speaks to not agreeing with something, not seeing eye to eye, not liking the way something tastes, not liking the way something looks, not liking the way certain things have gone down, not liking the ideas, not liking something, or not knowing about something. And that's another one that can come through. I had no idea that this was going on. I had no idea that there was an issue. I didn't know what I didn't know. And you're not easily able to connect as the day progresses through Thursday. So there's going to be a lot of indifference. Again, bad news bears kinds of things, upset type of things. Are we immediately dealing with upsets right here? But no, but it feels like layers to upset. So I want to be clear about something. And if you're feeling indifferent to someone, what you can find out is by the end of the weekend, that you don't feel compelled to stay connected to someone the same way. And that can be another way this kind of comes through. Again, I would normally put a lot of emphasis on quincunxes, but they really popped out at me as I was writing the notes. So you can be hearing some things that you just don't support, not wanting to be a part of, not believing, a lot of restless energy and a lot of indifference as the day progresses. All right, we're going to get into the third. We're going to get into Friday. We're starting with the moon in Aquarius for most of the day. We will have an overnight quincunx going into the morning time. So I'm bringing up the next one. And I feel like this creates a stagnant energy of people not wanting to believe something or not agreeing to some kind of solution in some way. There's a reason I'm specifically saying solution. All day on Friday, we're building towards a Mercury Chiron opposition. And the moon will play into the Chiron Mercury opposition as the day progresses. But we start in the morning with the moon going through this quincunx to Jupiter. So it's like, I know you're not, I know everybody's not happy about this. I know everybody's upset. I know everybody's frustrated. If you give me some time, I'm going to try to come up with a solution. Not everybody's going to like the solution. And for some people, their solution is going to be, again, separation, not being a part of something. Or their solution is going to be, I'm going to launch something else. And that's going to create an upset. Are we launching it all right now? No, I feel like we got more launch stuff going into next week. There's reasons I'm saying that. But there is like a stagnant, indifferent, stubborn energy for a lot of people whenever it comes to Friday morning. As we progress into the afternoon, we've got a couple things all happening at the same time. So, one, Mercury is going to hit its full opposition to Chiron. You see that right here. This is going to go the most exact between 1:02 and 1:17 p.m. Simultaneously, you can see the moon will go through a trine to Mercury and a sextile to Chiron. This really is all simultaneous. Like that 1 o'clock hour, every bit of it is exact. So we have this energy of like Mercury in the opposition to Chiron of like coming up with a solution, a plan of action to put something more fair, make something more right, putting something together to allow for a separation, to allow for something to disconnect, doing something to help make the body feel better. What I'm looking at is Venus is getting a lot closer to that south node. Some people, this will have a body thing. For other people, it is going to be like the need to create a solution or to have a solution. Mercury hitting this opposition to Chiron is we're trying to think through the potential of a solution. We want to be able to fix something, but sometimes that fix is not going to click. I don't know that everybody's going to click with the fix, with the solution, with our way of healing something as we go through Friday. There's going to be, talks with the moon being in the trine and the sextile to get more people involved, but you can't control how other people respond. And not everybody is going to see eye to eye with the situation. Let's keep it going. Now, after the sextile to Chiron, the trine to Mercury, blah, 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 with the moon is going to go void until the evening time. So a lot of people, whatever the solution is, people need time to think it over. They need time to mull it over. But some people, once the evening progresses, there's going to be an emotional, unplanned reaction. Now I want to explain why. At 9:08 p.m., I got it now at 9:30, the moon is going to go into Pisces. The moon in Pisces is now trekking back over an area of the sky over the weekend, basically, of what we activated in the Pisces eclipse. Some people came to some kind of completion. They released something, they let something go. Other people had some type of level up or a connection. And a lot of times it takes an entire lunar month to see the full results of whatever happens in a new moon or full moon. Once the moon goes into Pisces, there's going to be this emotional reaction, whether it's a healing, happy one or a deep-seated, frustrating one that's different for everybody, that is going to have an arrival into the arena, into the surface. And for some people, that is either going to be very unexpected or it's going to be an unexpected situation that triggers the emotional response. Because as soon as the moon goes into Pisces, it goes into a square with Uranus. Uranus will be that unexpected vibration. Now, some of us are going to be scrolling through something on technology, and there's going to be something that kind of like shakes us to our core. It creates an emotional response. We're going to get back into the chart now. The square between the moon and Uranus is the most exact between 10 p.m. and midnight. So I got this right here. Moon 0 degrees, 47 minutes. Here is Uranus 1 degrees, 8 minutes. It'll go exact closer to 11 p.m., but we're in that window for about 2 hours. This is whenever it's the most concentrated. But whenever the moon hits the square to Uranus, either some of us are at home just trying to chill, trying to calm our nerves, and we're scrolling through something, and then boom, there's something in our social media like, what the heck? What is he doing there? How did that happen? What are they doing together? And there's like this unexpected, unplanned thing that triggers an emotional response. For some people, it's going to be an exciting thing. You get a call from somebody like, hey, we're going to go to the movies. You want to go to the movies? You want to go to this show? You want to go to the wrestling match? You want to go to this concert? We have an extra ticket. And it's not planned. But the spontaneous thing's like, yes, this is exactly what I need. This will break me out of my funk. And you go do the unexpected thing. You go do the unplanned thing. For some of you, you're going to get a call from somebody unexpectedly. The moon hitting that square to Uranus, and that call triggers the emotional reaction. It triggers that vibration that we're talking about because now the moon is in Pisces. Now, again, whatever the moon in Pisces is doing for the next few days is reactivating, fully activating the things that got activated during the eclipse. And the entire weekend is the moon in Pisces. And for some people, that initial arrival of the moon is going to be exciting. For other people, that initial arrival is going to trigger an insecurity, trigger a frustration, or trigger the awareness of something that we need to heal, but we don't initially recognize it as something we need to heal. So be aware of that. Now, as we continue, obviously the last transit being that the moon is going to square Uranus between 10 p.m. and midnight. After that, we're going into the 4th. We're going into the next day. The moon is going to be in Pisces all day long. Now, whenever it comes to the overnight hours, roughly around 4 a.m. is whenever Venus is going to hit its exact conjunction to the south node. So you can see this right here. It's at 4:30. Venus is at 18 degrees, 15 minutes. Here's the south node, 18 degrees, 14 minutes. It's fine. Now, this does not have any other direct transits going on while it's happening. So I don't know that all of us are going to become aware of something simultaneously. We're not going to be acting something out simultaneously. This can be an internalized energy that takes a day or two to manifest. So we need the all of Saturday and or we need Sunday to bring something to light, to bring something into awareness. And I have a reason why I'm saying that. But there can be the internalized energy that gets activated over the course of the weekend of something that we no longer want to do, we no longer want to be a part of, we want to disconnect from. And the weekend can have many decisions of like, the fix is just me not being here, of me not letting this be my problem anymore, of me not doing this anymore. And there's reason why I keep saying that. I'll explain it more in the closing, but we need all the transits to make it make sense. So let's keep going. When it comes to the moon, the only real lunar transit that is going on is going to happen in the morning time between 10:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. So got now 11:30. And this is where Mars, 8 degrees, 22 minutes, is going to go through a trine with the moon. So you can see we're really close to the exactness right here. Hidden desires, Mars and Scorpio. Hidden activities, finding their way to the surface, triggering emotional insecurity, moon and Pisces. Some desire or action, Mars, is going to help with the healing process, moon and Pisces. A different type of emotional understanding. Let's do something to get out of our funk. Let's go garage selling. Let's go pick some pumpkins. Let's go do some cauldron shit. Let's go try to do something. Let's go buy some Halloween decorations. Let's go do something that will help us get out of our funk. Mars is trying to be supportive and Mars is feeling very, very motivated. And again, moon Mars stuff, this can give glimpses. Whatever the conversations are that we're having can give glimpses of the activity we will be doing in the full moon in Aries. There's a buildup all week towards a full moon that does not happen this week. But Mars is the ruler of that full moon. So that's why I keep bringing that up. All right. Now, as the day progresses, there is a lot of that indifference, frustration. This is bothering me, different things coming to the surface, different emotions coming to the surface. And I want to get this to the evening time to kind of explain why. One, the moon is going through a quincunx with the sun. My emotions don't necessarily see eye to eye with someone's ego. How I'm feeling doesn't fit the situation. The way I feel, they don't care about. Sun not seeing eye to eye with the moon. There's something in the way simultaneously. And it is exact here at 7:30. Mercury is going through a quincunx with Saturn. I don't trust the authority figure. I don't trust the elder. I don't believe the elder. I don't believe the boss. I don't support the boss. I don't see eye to eye. I don't agree. And there's this logical Mercury stuff, logical awareness that we're not responsible. We don't want that responsibility. We don't agree with some kind of situation. We don't agree with this decision. We don't agree with something. And this is the heavier part of that quincunx that I talked about in the intro of like, as this weekend progresses, there's like this indifference that we've had some type of announcement, we've had something come through that other people are just not vibing with, they're not happy with. And again, this is the last little bit of Mercury in Libra. We're literally within 48 hours of Mercury leaving. Venus is still in that conjunction to the South Node in Mercury's sign. Remember, Venus and Mercury in mutual reception. It's really coming through at the in degrees here. And again, there can be something about the body. Venus's conjunction to the South Node can impact somebody's body. For a lot more people, there's that awareness of like, I don't want to do something the same way anymore. I won't continue with something. I won't agree with someone. I don't want to work with somebody anymore. And there can be this logical awareness of that. Some of you are just going to be talking to your elders and be like, no, you really need to take your medicine. No, I don't want to take the medicine. It makes me feel weird. I don't want to do it. If you don't start taking your medicine appropriately, I'm going to take over your medicine and you're only going to take what I give you. Then I won't take any of it. It's like that kind of indifference. For those of us that are raising our parents, that could be an indifference. But the moon not seeing eye to eye with Saturn was not moon. The Mercury not seeing eye to eye with Saturn was very heavy whenever I was meditating on this. So there is this indifference. Now, are we immediately acting with anything about this indifference? Not really. Again, we're in a buildup towards something, and I don't know that the indifference will fully come through until after we get into the next week. But there's still a buildup. There's still frustration. There's still certain emotions trying to find the way to the surface. Now, there's nothing else going on to Saturday. We're going to move this into the 5th. We're going to move it into Sunday. And in the early morning hours between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this at 6:30, the moon is going to make an opposition to Venus. But that also means that the moon is making a conjunction to the the North Node, the head of the dragon. Venus has made us aware of something that we need to release, that we need to purge. But again, not everybody had the awareness. Not everybody was willing to make the commitment of what they would release, of what they would be done with. But the moon making that conjunction to the North Node, the head of the dragon, and the overnight hours, the downloads, the dreams, the awareness, the epiphany can make us aware it is time to let someone go, to let something go, to release something. Now I'm going to add an extra layer to that because remember, Venus and Mercury are in mutual reception. Sunday, the 5th, even though Mercury's not doing anything, it is the last full day of Mercury in Libra. Something is getting completed. Something is coming to a close. Something is meant to get released, and something is coming to an end. And that's why I keep saying all of this week has a buildup to some kind of a shift in the vibration. I feel like whenever the moon hits the conjunction to the South Node, I keep saying South Node, the conjunction to the North Node, Venus is on the South Node, sorry. When the moon hits that conjunction to the North Node, it hits that opposition to Venus. There is this tie of awareness of either something that's bringing us peace. Hopefully we can get some people that have Venus conjunct South Node, like we'll feel at peace with something. But for other people, the desire to let someone go, to be done with something, to complete something, to finish something, to be done with something, to overcome something. Now, are we having all the interactions at the same time? No. And I feel like a lot more people can either see something that they don't like, taste something that they don't like, receive a gift of something that they don't like, become aware of something that triggers some type of an emotional response, or in the gift giving sense, Venus, the South Node, some people are ready to let something go and they need to give it to someone else. This is your inheritance. This is your payoff. This is what I'm willing to sacrifice. And that's a little bit of a lighter way that this can be done. But again, if you're getting something, if it's a gift giving situation, something that speaks to the healing process, Venus hitting the opposition to the moon, it'll be for the last time because Mercury is wrapping up its trip through Libra. And once this trip is done, there's no more mutual reception between Venus and Mercury. And that's why I've been so heavy on it. These two have been working together the entire time, but we're almost done with mutual reception. Okay. Now, as the day progresses, right in that lunchtime hour, I'm going to get this to 12:30. The moon is going to make a trine to Jupiter. Now, the moon is in Jupiter's sign, healing to healing. Jupiter and the moon are in mutual reception. This level of understanding, healing, understanding, putting something forward where we can nurture something, where we can shift our focus, where we can do something different. Some people, we're going to express a desire, moon to Jupiter, to do something different. But Jupiter's like, there, it's been a week and there can be hesitancy. Now, the reason I actually mentioned the hesitancy is not necessarily just because of what transits have happened this week, but because Jupiter is starting to slow down. And over the course of the entire month, Jupiter will only go 2 more degrees. And I'll cover this more in the month ahead episode. But Jupiter is starting to slow down. So sometimes we can push for something that this can be so great, it can be healing. And it's like, oh, that's going to be so exciting. But some part of you feels like, why does this feel weird though? It's because some parts of us are going to recognize that we can't move forward with something as much as we want to. And if we try to push something forward too soon, we're going to get upset later because it's not going to stick. So be aware of the quote, quote, pushes that's going on here, because we're getting closer to a hesitancy vibe when it comes to wealth, prosperity, the doctor, the guru, the teacher. Jupiter's energy in Cancer is starting to slow down. We're not in full steam ahead energy. Jupiter's been in its shadow for well over a month and a half now. We're starting to edge towards something where we're going to feel hesitancies. And some of us are going to be like with somebody and they're like, hey, I got this great idea. I was like, yeah, okay. But after you think about it long, you're like, I don't know why I don't feel like this is a good idea. It won't be all in the same moment. But if you start to feel some kind of desire or emotional expression and there's like a hesitancy, listen to the hesitancy. Okay, moving along. It shouldn't all be hesitant. In the mundane sense, it should be something that's helpful, joyful. It shouldn't be the heaviest thing, but just be aware of that vibration. If you start to feel a hesitancy in some way, listen to that energy. All right. Between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m., I got this at 7:30. The moon is going to make a conjunction to Saturn, and it is exact 27 degrees, 23 minutes. You can see it right there. This is having a meeting with the authority figure, with the elder, sending that email, sending some type of information, coming to terms, talking with somebody that we look as like a responsible figure. They're not necessarily like our authority figure, but like it's like they're the adultier adult in certain conversations. Like, look, I want to talk to my big brother. I want to talk to my sister. I want to talk to my best friend. They always know what to do. They always have the greatest advice. I'm going to talk to them. And we have the meeting. That's what this feels like. We're having a meeting about what has happened, what has occurred. Now, given the fact that Saturn is still technically in a quincunx to Mercury, even though Mercury is far more separated now compared to where he was the day before, there's still that uneasy energy about like a recent solution, a recent conversation, a recent filing, recent information, recent decisions. And it's talking to a responsible party, talking to somebody that understands the need for this level of hierarchy. It's talking with somebody that can give facts in the guidance. They can give a different perspective. Sometimes we are going to talk to our elder. This doesn't always have to be the most heavy thing. Sometimes we're just chilling with grandpa. Like, yeah, let's totally watch a marathon of Family Ties from the 90s or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or that 70s show or just something. Some of us, it's going to be the most mundane thing of just chilling with the elder, talking about the past, talking about old responsibilities. Some of us, it's not going to be this profound thing. For other people, it is like getting advice, getting the guidance, because we are in a buildup and we can feel the buildup going into a full moon that we're not actually going to perfect in, which takes me to the rest of the evening. At 11:48 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I'm going to bump this to 12:30 on the 6th, the moon is going to go into Aries. It is going to go into Aries right before midnight. So we are not going to do any type of real talks about the moon in Aries. I'm just making you aware that by the time we get to the end of Sunday night, the moon will be in Aries and it will immediately starting some shit. We go straight into the next week in the full moon vibration. And again, every day this week, there is a buildup. Now, I don't know that we start the week knowing the thing that we're going to complete, knowing the thing that we're going to be done with, knowing the thing that we want to walk away from, knowing the thing that we're going to let go of. I don't know that we start this week knowing it. I feel like it's going to be something that shows itself throughout the week based off of like how certain things unfold. So I do feel like there will be an quote, quote, upset because we haven't taken something into account, or we just didn't know to be aware of it. We don't know what's going on in other people's homes and other people's lives and other people's businesses. But once it becomes known and it falls onto our plate, then it's like, oh, that's the upset. That's the grumpiness. That's the thing I wasn't planning for. But I feel like we need that upset. We need the bad news bears to come through. We need that underbelly situation to find its way to the surface. There's some part of us that needs that. And for a lot of people, knowing that we are building up to a full moon all week, but specifically a full moon in Aries, which speaks to wanting to react to something, we need to be aware that a lot of the buildup towards something, other people are not going to like the outcome. They're not going to like the decision. Some of the decisions that we make are going to create a reactive indifference. And I feel like some people, whenever the initial energy comes throughout the week, there's shock. There's not an emotional response. Like we don't even have time to process completely what is going on. I feel like the processing happens over the weekend. Now, again, for some people, once the moon goes into Pisces, there's going to be something that does go back to that eclipse that happened in, why did I go blank? Earlier in the month, in early September. There's going to be something that goes back to that. But then there's going to be other situations that find the next layer, the next round of some type of emotional vibration coming to the surface, something that we need to heal. And for some people, whatever that healing is, if we're not ready for it, that speaks to the hesitancy. Some things that are coming through that we're not like ready to fully jump into, like, why? Why do I need to deal with this old wound? Why do I need to go back to this time span? Why do I need to go back there? Why does this need to come back around now? Because it's a part of the unfinished business. Now, for some people, as soon as that thing comes through, and if you're ready to heal it, like, cool, let's go. I'm done. I'm tired of this old wound. This is me talking about Saturn and Pisces. I swear. It went back, and the little things from the past situation that keeps coming back up. I'm like, can we just get done with this? I'm so sick of this. Like, I just want to be done. But for other people, you're sitting there questioning, like, why are things coming back around? And I think it's going to continue to get worse before it gets better on the things coming back around, because again, there's some kind of old wound, past situation that wasn't completely handled the way that we thought, or whatever's coming through, and the upset, so to speak, the unexpected things coming back around can have a different face tied to it. And it's more along the lines of like, did you learn that lesson? Because now we need you to either one, go through a test, repeat the lesson with a different person, or two, here's the two, you have to help someone go through that situation and not repeat your pattern. And that gets trickier and that gets harder, because the saying is some people will not learn lessons through the way you tell them. No matter how many times you give somebody advice, if they are not willing to listen, you can't take a horse to water and force it to drink. You can't. Doesn't matter how much you can be supportive and how much guidance you can give. They have to choose to listen. They have to choose to do something with it. They have to choose whatever they need to choose. And sometimes they're not going to take your advice. I deal with this all the time. The difference is, do they continue to work through their decisions and owning their decisions? That's where we usually have an escape. And where there's been lacks of accountability, I feel like that's a big part of Saturn going back into Pisces. Like, you have to accept the accountability for the wounds that you've created for yourself. At least I've seen that with some people. It's not everybody, but I've seen it with some people. Okay, I went on a little tangent there that I wasn't anticipating, but we are building towards a full moon all this week. As we go into next week, we will start the week in a full moon vibration. And I feel like every part of this week, like I said before, there's little things finding their way to the surface, decision and news finding its way to the surface that is going to let us know where we need to complete something, not nearly as heavy. Where we are done with something or someone can be a little bit heavier depending on the situation. Stay clued in. And if you find yourself going through the last half of the week, especially feeling very disconnected and indifferent towards certain things, you are getting grabbed by the energy, because the indifference in the buildup towards the full moon was very, very loud and pronounced as I was going through meditating on this week. So there's that. Okay. Remember, this is the last full week. Not full week. This is the last few days of the September special. When I get up on October 1st, I will change all the pricing back on the website, and there will not be any big full monthly specials throughout the rest of the year. And that's a big important thing. If I do run a special, and that's the big thing, if I do, it'll be something very small, very, very small window. So this is your last few days to be able to capitalize on the special that I am running. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.